Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. So, I'm so excited to firstly give you guys an update on my channel. I got 50 subscribers. I can't even say thank you enough. Oh my gosh, 50 subscribers. I hit my first big milestone in my mind. Um, Here's to 50 more and then some. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for your continued support. Make sure if you are just now viewing this video for the first time, seeing my channel for the first time, subscribe, please. I would just appreciate it so much. And make sure you're liking these videos because it keeps the algorithm going, lets people know, hey, this is a cool video. Especially if you guys are interested in things like movies and music and the things that I like to talk about and the things that I like to watch. So let's stay connected and make sure that you're commenting, you're sharing. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. So that brings me to today's video. So I'm going to be taking you guys back in time today. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh. This movie is very near and dear to my heart, and I didn't even realize. This one is just so special. So, if you were alive at this specific time, you know how this whole thing just feels so right. I don't know, I'm going to be bringing you back to when Jonathan Taylor Thomas was Pinocchio. So this was 1996, The Adventures of Pinocchio. So I had the VHS. That's how old I am, first of all. Secondly, I don't know what the material is. I'll look it up and put maybe whatever it's called up there afterward. But it had that material that, like, you know how it's like, ribbed, and then you have, like, when you move it one way, you see one picture, and you move it the other way, you see another picture. It had like that, and then, like, if you moved it one way, you could see the animated Pinocchio. If you moved it the other way, you saw the live action Jonathan Taylor Thomas in the Pinocchio costume. So that was always fun. And I remember my cousins and me watching this movie multiple times, and to the point where my aunt and my mom both were like, can we not watch this movie again? Like, let's not watch this. Between this one and the Free Willy movies, it was like, and Flipper from 1997, or no, 1996, yeah, same year. Yeah, but all those movies, those were like, we stood by those movies. Those movies were our childhood, and I love that. But this one in particular, it's so funny because I had forgotten all about it since I was a kid, and it came on Netflix quite some time ago. I remember, and I mean, the second I started watching it, I was like, oh my god, I remember this. I mean, just even the music was like, whoa, I forgot about that. And, you know, the jokes, it was so iconic. So let's first talk about the premise. So most of us know the original story of Pinocchio. It was an Italian folk tale, and being Italian myself, it does sit close to my heart. But if you know the original story, it's pretty much the same. Pinocchio was made by Geppetto, and the love in his heart caused him to become animated, and chaos ensues. But what I love is that this took a turn from the 1940 Disney animated, which I didn't actually like that one that much. Personally, we had it And I would watch it sometimes, but I didn't really like it. I always liked this one. I always would say, oh, well, I like the other one better. Can we watch the other one instead? And that's, I think, because the DreamWorks side of things really changed it. So it is a DreamWorks movie. And I personally think that DreamWorks does some great work. And of course, we know first and foremostly Shrek. You knew I was going to talk about it. There is not a movie series that I just hold closer to my heart as far as nostalgia and my growing up years as these movies. The first Shrek came out and I was all over it. The second one, I lost count how many times I watched that movie because I had it on DVD and I would literally watch that movie all the time. And I would play the video game on GameCube all the time. And then the third one came out and I was in high school, but I still watched it. And then Shrek Forever After, I was much older, but my sister had kids, so I was like, you knew we were watching it. So definitely love DreamWorks. The Prince of Egypt, amazing. So this was part of all of that. This is part of that legacy for me. And I just personally think it just is part of that slice of nostalgia. And the reason why I think it worked so well is because this was the time I was 5 years old. So I can't really, not even, I was turning 5 years old that fall. So I can't even really totally say, but from what I saw as I was growing up and looking back at it, that was the year of the resurgence of like the SNL, the wild, crazy, off the hinges humor of like Wayne's World, and you had like oh, what's the name of that? Because there was like Wayne's World and like Dumb and Dumber, and like these movies that were just sort of maybe not in the vein of the most wholesome content, I guess is the way I could put it. Kind of over the top. And, you had, people like Chris Farley and Adam Sandler, and like these people were crazy. These people were absolutely certifiable. And so there was no like, it just didn't have the, I say likability, but it wasn't palatable. That's the better word to put it. It wasn't palatable for everybody. So it was a very niche audience at that point. Teens, late teens. That was basically it. And then you had kid movies that were like very kid, very, like you had like Babe, and you had like Toy Story that were like, they were clearly little kid movies, which I didn't have a problem with those. I didn't have a problem with those little kid movies when I was little, but I was getting a little older. And as I grew up, these were the movies that I gravitated toward because they had that air of just like goofy humor, but without being either uncomfortable or, in my opinion, just wrong. I mean, come on, what 5-year-old doesn't absolutely die over the man singing opera and the woman going, put a sock in it, and then Pinocchio falls off the roof and there's a pair of pants or something that falls in his mouth. Like, not 5-year-old me just absolutely losing my crap over that. Just like it's the funniest thing I've ever seen. I mean, you can't deny that. um and like the even the iconic lines like excuse me coming through like that, it means something to us, and that's because it was geared toward that family aspect. And I think we don't give enough credit to these movies that were family, that were for everybody without being underhanded, in my mind. You had Shrek that was underhanded. I mean, let's be honest. There's lots of jokes that were just underhanded, right? We're not gonna deny that. And I'm not saying that's bad. I don't have a problem with that. It's fine. And my family loved it. From me to my parents. So definitely worked. But this was palatable because it was comfortable for everyone. There wasn't a moment that, like in Shrek, when the kids wouldn't have gotten the joke. Those are fine. Like I said, I don't have a problem with, sometimes slipping in a, hey, parents, not in a gross way, but in a like, here's a look back at your pop culture, or here's a joke that, within reason, maybe your kids might not get, a wink wink, kind of thing. But it's so nice to have these movies that are just everybody's laughing and everybody gets it. There's not a 4-year-old going, Mommy, what's that? Everybody's going, oh, that was funny. Like, I personally, as an adult, would rather be like, okay, yeah, that is funny, than be like, and then the kids are going, what? I mean, sometimes that's funny, but we can take it to a level. So there's that. And then there's, I mean, obviously, this was Jonathan Taylor Thomas in his prime. We all, I think, knew who this was at this point. We all knew who we were dealing with. And what's so cool is like, you had like Home Improvement, you had, I think he was in Tom and Huck at that point, which that's another movie. I haven't seen it in forever, but it's another one that I remember watching with my cousins, and we ate it up. And I think it was also on Netflix back at the same time, and I just didn't rewatch it since then. So I need to rewatch it next time it's available. But it's like those movies are why we were so into the persona of this dude. And it's funny too, because I remember I watched The Lion King once. Well, maybe twice. It was twice, because the first time I was a kid, I was like maybe 8 years old. And then the second time I was in my 20s and I was nannying, and the little kid wanted to watch it. So we watched it, and I did not like it either time. I didn't like it, but I was like, now who is that? And then I remember looking it up later when I was an adult and being like, oh, it's okay, that's why I know who that is. And it's so funny because then we saw him as a teen on Smallville, and then we saw that he kind of basically, after, I think it was after the last thing he was in, well, that was the last thing he was in, because he was in I'll Be Home for Christmas, and then he was in Smallville, and then that was it. And it was like, for a really long time, and then he was on that show with Tim Allen again, which I thought was cute. But I feel like this was just like that time when, he was just really popular. Oh, and I also failed to mention Man of the House with Chevy Chase, which I don't actually like Chevy Chase. I think he's kind of annoying, but I liked him in this movie, and I liked like the dynamic. I love Farrah Fawcett. I think she was so gorgeous, and I really liked her character in the movie. And then also I liked the comedy. I just thought it was great comedy. That's another one that I would revisit. May, if it's available, may go into it. Would have to rewatch it again because it's been so long, but definitely worth another rewatch. But these are the movies that really established that this kid knew what he was doing. And I feel like this is no exception because this is not necessarily a tall order, because like it's not in the level of like, you had like The Man in the Iron Mask where Leo DiCaprio had to like play two different characters, like Parent Trap when Lindsay Lohan had to play two different characters. But it falls in the same vein because you have like, he is voicing this character, and then, not to give spoilers, but then we get to see him actually work through, be coming out and then live action. So for me, I think that also is a factor that it went well. I think it went really well, and I think that it's something that, I mean, I'm not a filmmaker, I'm not an actress, but from watching it as an adult, I really do see that the work that was put into it, and I think it really did go well. And I wish I could like share more clips and like give you more like, without sharing the clips, certain vocal stems, as they say, would not make sense, but copyright. So I have to be careful because of copyright. YouTube is really weird about copyright, so I don't want to get in trouble. So I want to keep it simple. But there's so many moments that just, the second it started, when I watched it for the first time after being a child and watching it, I was like, I forgot about this whole thing. It's certain things that just, they remind you of being a kid, and there are moments and I'd love to talk about those more. I feel like I would love to do that thing that's going viral where you see a millennial watching Homeward Bound, and I'm not gonna say too much, but there's a specific scene, and if you don't know, you were too young, but there's a specific scene that all of us will cry at, no matter how many times we watched it. And yes, I cry as well, and I would love to be a part of that sort of viral fun. I just don't have the movies. So I would have already posted it, but I don't have the movies and cannot find them for streaming, except for, I think, maybe on Disney Plus, which I don't have. And we'll get more into that in a minute. I digress. Okay. How is this different from the Disney animated? So Disney animated 1940, first of all, iconic in its own way. I mean, it was cute. There wasn't anything wrong with it. I absolutely love the little kitty Figaro. I have a tuxie of my own, so I love that. And the whole When You Wish Upon a Star, like, theme was cute, but I feel like this made it so much more like what it needed to be. I feel like it brought so much heart, and the theme of what are we made of, the song that kind of runs through these couple moments in the movie. I feel like that really, you know, as a kid, I remember looking just like the little kids in the puppet show who were just like wide-eyed, innocent, just staring, listening to the song, and I can remember realizing I was sitting there like that while the song was playing and just, so eager, an eager young child. And, you know, it's so funny that like the moments that just are so simple but so memorable. And there's a reality to it, I think, that kind of, there is no blue fairy. There is no, like, it was the love in Geppetto's heart. And I believe it says, and I could be quoting it wrong, but there's at the beginning it says, um with the love in Geppetto's heart, a miracle occurred or something like that. And I love the way that is stated, because it was like the point was that the love in Geppetto's heart for his wife, and for, well, not his wife, but the woman that he wanted to marry, and the love that he had for what he was doing caused for something just miraculous to happen. And it's part of the story, and it's part of why it's so special. Um, Also, I feel like they really upped the stakes with this puppet master person being so just vile. He was not a good person. And I remember, again, not giving away too many spoilers, because I think it's definitely worth a watch. So it is on YouTube currently for free. Hurry up and watch it. I don't know how long it's going to be there. But the moment when he becomes the monster, mm, mm, mm. 5-year-old me, haunted. Haunted. These are the reasons why I will not watch scary movies, because I don't handle this very well. And these are the reasons why. Because I was so young. And these things, that was enough for me. That was enough for me. I do not need to see any more. I do not need to have any more. The scary stops there. The scary level has been reached. It is capped off. And it was even it wasn't even that bad, and it wasn't as bad as like some of the other things that I now see, that maybe I didn't watch them. A lot of them I didn't watch, but certain things that I'm now looking at that other kids, especially like kids that I knew, would watch, and I'm like, I'm so glad that my mom didn't let me watch that. Because I would have been absolutely traumatized by some of these things. So this was bad enough. And, it sad is one thing, startling is another, absolutely horrific no, we're not going there. And so this stopped at startling. This stopped there, which was good. And I just think with upping the stakes, it also made it more epic. I feel like it wasn't as telegraphed, I guess you could say. I don't know. It felt more substantial. So it's definitely worth the watch. I had forgotten all about it, and there's more things that I've forgotten about that I want to talk about in the next video. So I'm so excited to share with you guys the rest of these things. This is going to take a different turn, so stay tuned, and I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll tune in next time. Bye!